What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us today for the 1004 show, episode 61. And we're going back home for me, where I grew up, Loudoun County. We talked to Vanessa Wagner, who is the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Manager. I haven't lived in Loudoun County, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C., in over a decade. I followed it. I still have family up there. So it's always good to hear about what they're doing. Now, when I grew up there, they were... When I moved there as a kid, it was a place that was still rural, and not a lot had really grown yet. They had invested a lot in Dulles Airport, which is a very large airport now and has been for several decades. But it was a big risk, and that risk actually worked out very well for them. And over the years, Loudoun County has been one of the largest median income counties in the country. A lot of big businesses and small businesses have started and grown from there. AOL had a huge hub there. And when I met Steve Case a few years ago, I told him thank you for creating not only AOL, making the internet so big, but also for making Northern Virginia traffic so crazy, because AOL grew so big. But it's not just about AOL. It's not just about Dulles Airport. It's about learning about some of the things that small businesses are looking at and how to produce into the future. So we talked to Vanessa Wagner from Loudoun County Economic Development. It's episode 61 of the 1004 show. I like this episode. It's really exciting to learn about what my hometown is doing, because a lot of the things that she's talking about weren't there 10 years ago when I moved away. And so it's really interesting to see how all that stuff is kind of growing, and it's really cool. So you guys can check that out. If you guys are interested, you can learn more at loudonsmallbiz.org or biz.loudoun.gov. But this is episode 61 with Loudoun County Economic Development's Vanessa Wagner. Take a look, and if you like it, share it with your friends. Thanks a bunch. Let's get into this episode.
And part of that is that opportunity in the technology sector, where we have business development team members focused on the data center opportunity, information communication technology with special focuses on cyber, as well as advanced analytics, health and health innovation, and then again, that aviation sector, which leads to new technologies such as unmanned systems. So we really are careful about what we're focusing on based on the assets we have to leverage for that growth, but also input from the business community, independent organizations conducting research on our behalf. So we are very excited about focusing on those, because that's where we see the opportunity in Loudoun, where it's been and where it will continue to grow over the next 20 years.
How do you understand what clusters and what businesses are actually doing well in an area and that still have kind of a good positive trajectory?
Sure. So on our team, we have our strategic initiatives team, which really helps provide a lot of that intelligence to help us make those decisions. They're looking at trends in real estate, trends in businesses coming in, trends in the growth of those businesses, and comparing those against not only regional, but national and international trends in the global marketplace. So those types of decisions, when we're deciding on focusing, are again based on that smart data. And we have those representatives in-house in our department. But again, we also look to our partners, like our advisory commissions, to help us with those decisions.
Is that something that's common to have in-house, or is that something that typically you have to get those reports and those type of that data point from other organizations?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so that type of, you said you have those kind of data points in-house, or those individuals in-house. Is that something that's common, or do you typically have to hire an organization to provide you that information?
We do a mix of both. It's wonderful to have those resources in-house for the data we need to be actionable in the next two weeks or 2 months. But then when we're looking at our long-term vision and strategy, we use a mix of resources.
When entrepreneurs or businesses come to you, what type of stuff are they typically asking for? And how can a business that is in Loudoun County or thinking about moving to Loudoun County start to kind of activate themselves with you and your team?
Sure. So if I'm understanding the question, what types of resources do entrepreneurs ask for? And that can really vary based on the industry they're in. But something we see common to any small business is really that foundation. Every business needs a plan. Every business needs to understand different ways to access capital or fund their growth. Every business, well, most businesses will eventually be hiring employees, so understanding that process. So we really look at those foundational pieces and work closely with our partners like the small business development centers, our chambers, our workforce centers to make sure that we have the right mix for those foundational businesses or the foundational pieces that any business needs to be successful. Then, as we get into the various industries, that's where we'll make sure that we have partners or subject matter experts we can rely on. For example, for myself personally, when I'm working with tech startups, I'm going to partner with organizations like the Mid-Atlantic Venture Association that could help them scale and grow through funding streams or getting them in front of investors. Whereas if I'm working with maybe a nice farm to fork restaurant, I'm going to be looking at someone like the Virginia Cooperative Extension who can help them understand keeping their kitchen up to code. So that's where it really goes back to the importance of having strong relationships with partners, because while there are those foundational things that every business needs, we can't be everything to everybody. So having great referrals to provide these businesses for the right resources at the right time is incredibly important in the line of work we do.
Someone that is looking to connect with those partners, how would they go about and start doing that?
Sure. So one of the resources we adopted a few years ago from Kansas City was the SourceLink platform. Now that's on our website, loudonsmallbiz.org. And on that site, we have listed over, oh geez, I just added some new ones yesterday. So we have over 75 resource partners that you can do a simple search on, whether that's identifying space, co-working space, or incubator space, or if it's looking at different funding streams or business mentors. You can put that in a simple search to identify which resource partners can help you in that. Another component that I'm extremely proud of in Loudoun is while we work with so many partners, there's definitely that core group of partners that are very collaborative in Loudoun. And so we all have a strong awareness of the different partners, the different organizations we all work with. So really, you could come to the SBDC, and if it's something that economic development can help you with, they'll refer you to me. You go to the chamber and they know you need a business plan mentor, they'll put you back in with the Small Business Development Center. So really proud of the collaboration we have, because I feel that you don't have to just go through one door to get the access you need in Loudoun, but really there's a lot of doors to get you where you need to be at the right time.
How many businesses are in Loudoun County?
Currently, we have over 11,000 businesses,
Okay.
with 86% of those being in 20 employees or fewer. And that's not uncommon in growing areas. Most of your businesses will be on the smaller side. So it's a lot of heavy lifting and support that those businesses need and that we want to provide to them.
So a lot of places talk about collaboration like you did. How do you ensure that that collaboration is actually happening and it's not just talk?
That's a great question. So we have, when I joined the team several years ago, it was really important to me that we continuously keep everyone up to date on information about what we're all doing. So one, we have newsletters that go out directly to our resource partners that might share a new partner we've brought on board, highlight a new offering that somebody's providing, a special workshop they're doing for the first time. So there's, of course, that digital communications piece. Not only through the newsletters, but also on @LoudonSmallBiz Twitter handle. But then we take time to meet in person every other month, where our core business partners and stakeholders will come together to not only share what they're working on, but that's also a time that we talk about challenges that we're seeing in the small business community. Maybe a piece of information we're missing, or suddenly we're getting a lot of entrepreneurs coming in asking about X. So that way we can work together to solve that. And it might not always be economic development that takes the lead on that. It might be the chamber, it might be the workforce center, it might be our clerk of circuit court or a developer partner. So really understanding, in those cases, understanding the challenges that the community is facing, getting together in person to discuss those, and then at the end of the day, putting egos aside so that the right person is taking lead to provide the support for those businesses.
Knowing that there's 11,000 businesses in Loudoun County, of which 86% of them have 20 employees, and I told you I wouldn't ask you a lot of numbers questions, but I'm gonna see if you know this answer. Knowing that there's 11,000 companies, which 86% of them have 20 employees or less. Do you know what the total kind of budget, if you will, or total cap of revenue of those businesses is compared to the other 14%?
I do know that our business taxes are making up 30% of the taxes collected by our county. So that's huge. Only a few years ago, it was less than that. So growing that our commercial tax base is increasing, and I can get you those exact numbers so that you have those available.
Sure.
So we've certainly seen that growth. And in the last 3 years, we've seen over, is it $7.2 billion of new commercial investment in Loudoun County. So that has put us as one of the highest, the fastest growing jurisdictions in the entire country for a community our size. So it's really been a big growth spurt we've seen in the last few years.
Is the hope to add $5 billion on that from Amazon as well in the coming years?
I'm sure that everyone would, out of the 238 jurisdictions that are competing for that proposal, everyone's excited for that opportunity.
I believe that they're going to Loudoun County. I just think it makes sense. I've been saying that since day one. In that type of package, and I know you guys probably can't talk about the specifics in it, but generally, what type of thing, if a business was looking to relocate to an area, generally, what type of incentives or a package could they be looking at getting?
As you mentioned, that's still topics that can't be disclosed at this time, but I'm going to steal a famous line from our executive director, Buddy Reiser, that no amount of incentives can make a bad location a good location for a business.
It's good. It's good that you guys are a good location. Maybe a couple of deals in the past that you guys have done, what type of things were provided to them? Not Amazon, but just like if I was a business in Missouri and I was thinking about moving to Northern Virginia, what type of thing could I potentially be looking for, or why should I move to a Northern Virginia?
Absolutely. I'll focus on small businesses since that's my niche. One of the things I really see that makes Loudoun different, and to be honest with you, one of the reasons I stayed here to build my career when I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and was traveling through 10 years ago, is it is such a supportive business community. I have never been in a location where other businesses want to help you and see each other succeed. And that, especially if you're a small business, having access to successful entrepreneurs that have been there, done this 4 or 5 times already, and are willing to sit down with you and review your business plan or make introductions for you, that can be a huge difference. Additionally, we're in a point right now where you can grow with us. In a lot of areas, you're trying to fit it, see where you fit in. But at Loudoun right now, with the development of the metro and the transit-oriented stations, the big spurts we're seeing on the eastern side of our community, this is a place where the entrepreneurs I'm working with right now are really having a say in what they want out of this community, what resources they want in the future, how they want to be engaged with, and they're able to do that, and we're working with them to build a community that they see as successful for their future growth. So I feel that those are some of the opportunities we have in Loudoun. When you talk about specific incentives, there are, of course, opportunities that we work with the state incentives, and a lot of those are based on investment into the community, potential jobs that you're going to be bringing in, and there are incentives for both larger organizations as well as small businesses.
How important is having DC, Washington, D.C., a top 10 metro in basically your backyard? How is that beneficial to the growth of where you guys are?
Sure. So one of the advantages I see, I'll say for our smaller government contract, well, we do have a strong government contracting sector here. So having access to some of those key players for a small business to collaborate with, whether it's Raytheon or Orbital, is a huge opportunity because all of those guys are in DC's backyard, if not in Loudoun right now as well. Additionally, in Loudoun, we do have a hub zone, which is a great resource for small government contractors to utilize, and then another certification they can add as they're bidding on government contracting work. The other opportunity, I would say, for a lot of emerging technologies is they're brand new. There's no policies, or they have to have policies adjust because government hasn't caught up with the technology. So you're seeing it become more and more important for these small tech firms that are establishing or creating brand new industries and innovation to be close to those decision makers and policy makers so that things are shifted and shaped in a way that is business friendly.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing for a business to be able to not have policies at that point? I'm guessing it's a good thing.
I think so.
Yeah. The small, so in a community like Loudoun that is ultimately, I think, a lot of times attached to a Washington, D.C., you've said that the community there is very friendly and that people are working together. Do you ever get conversations where the small business community is weary of the big business community?
I have not. In my experience, our larger employers in Loudoun County have opened doors for the small firms. And you see that actually a lot through the engagement with our Loudoun Chamber of Commerce, which is the largest chamber in the Northern Virginia region as far as memberships, where they'll have their larger employers like a Telos, which is a cybersecurity gem, opening up their doors for the small government contractors to come in and learn about how they've done so fantastically on establishing a secure facility, and then meeting with the folks that are in charge of that facility to better understand how they can replicate that success. So in our instance, we've certainly seen, by leveraging various business organizations, whether it's the Chamber or Northern Virginia Technology Council, that large employers and large businesses are very helpful to our entrepreneurs in this region.
So other than education from the open door policy, what type of things have you seen those big businesses do to help those small businesses? Do they have a partner on contracts, or what other things have you seen?
Certainly, there are partners in contracts. There's the Great Mentor Protege program, and we rely heavily on support with George Mason University's Technical Assistance Program to help businesses understand how to leverage those opportunities. But additionally, sometimes these are the folks that are looking to utilize the technology being developed by these small businesses, or look at it as a research and development opportunity. We've even seen some of the larger businesses wanting to help fuel the growth of these small firms through private investments, or working directly with them to introduce them to angels and other sources that can help them in that.
With an airport like Dulles Airport being so large, decades old, a big win and a big risk for the Northern Virginia Loudoun area, but it also allows you guys to import and export, like you mentioned. But it also is a very transient area because of, I guess, aviation and the military and things like that. How do you guys continue to grow while being one of the most transient areas in the world?
I'm sorry, how do we continue to grow while being?
A very transient place where people are moving, coming and going constantly.
Of course. I'm sure that could be a challenge for any transient. As I mentioned earlier, I myself am a transient, but got hooked on Loudoun. I think it really is having these roots in the businesses here. So while some firms, they have a CEO that lives elsewhere, they might still have one of their branches here, especially the larger organizations, like, again, the large government contractors or defense, or even our international businesses like Arrayhow that has their Integris Holdings, who has their headquarters here, but they're manufacturing overseas. So I feel that when you're dealing with a lot of transient population, sometimes having those roots in the businesses, regardless if the business has multiple branches or facilities across the globe, having that Loudoun presence can really help us continue to grow and tap into those businesses and those leaders.
For an area that isn't super old, how do you guys have an identity? How do you guys have a culture? I know growing up there, since I did grow up there, I think that was something that maybe because it's not an urban area, because it wasn't something that has hundreds of years of history, or at least not history that a lot of people talk about. How do you guys have that culture that then is defined in kind of the business community as well?
I think that's a great question, and definitely something that a growing community can face challenges with. And we're still developing what is that Loudoun identity, especially because we have such a mix of businesses and lifestyles. As I mentioned earlier, on the western side is our rural agriculture community. You've got everything from your dairy farmers still to the thriving winery industry, the craft breweries now. And then in the mix, we have our small towns that will have those great farm to fork restaurants and walkable lifestyles. And then in the east is the airport and the growth. So it's certainly a challenge on combining all of those. One of the efforts that our Loudoun County government has taken is a program called Envision Loudoun, where for the past year, they've been seeking the input from all communities. So going into schools, going into libraries, community centers, and trying to solicit input from all of the residents of Loudoun for input on the comprehensive plan overview. So as they're redeveloping the comprehensive plan for what is Loudoun's future for the next 20, 50 years, they're getting input from the community to get a better understanding of, as we're growing, what does everyone see and what is everyone's vision of Loudoun. So that's still coming together, but it's been very exciting to see how engaged the community has been in those discussions, both residents as well as businesses.
The Washington.
But yeah, I mean, I always joke when I first moved to Loudoun, it is this interesting mix where I was 20 minutes from petting a goat or 20 minutes from being in DC. So you had that mix of both, and finding that identity, maybe that is our identity.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think growing up, I went to Potomac Falls High School, so I grew up in that part of the area. And growing up, I think we latched on to the DC Metro a lot, right? And so you grab onto DC sports, and I think that allows maybe Loudoun to help build that identity through sports and stuff like that. And obviously, you have raving sports fans. How important is sports in kind of a community, even if they're not directly in that area? But how important is sports kind of to the growing community of Loudoun?
Sports are a big deal in Loudoun County. As you may or may not know, we do have the Washington Redskins headquarters right here in Ashburn, Virginia. Yep. And so they are a strong partner of ours, both for economic development as well as the county. Redskins give back a lot to going into the schools or through community service. We have current Washington Redskins or retired Redskins opening businesses in Loudoun. So sports is definitely a great way to bridge different communities and cultures together. And we certainly see that. And then even for those teams that might be in the city, such as the Capitals, very exciting opportunity that having the Silver Line Metro coming out to as far as Ashburn, Virginia by 2020, we'll be able to have that direct access. So that can be another way to bridge those gaps, as you mentioned.
Very cool. With wine and craft beer and then a tech community and then a huge airport, how do all those things kind of work together to tell a story that Loudoun is a place where people should want to live, work, start, etc.?
I think, there just really is something for everybody. Not trying to be too loud and proud, but I do live here and work here, and this place had me hooked because you have such a diversity of options for entertainment, and that just keeps growing. When I first moved here 10 years ago, there was talk about this place called One Loudoun that was going to be the nightlife center of the community. And now that's really here. Yeah. So seeing that growth and having that mix of something for everybody, but you are also seeing them sort of bridge those connections as well. For example, yesterday I went out to visit Nota Viva Vineyards, which is on the western part of the community. And they recently, for wine club members, launched an opportunity for them to come and co-work in their venue during the week, work week. So those folks that didn't want to do the commute into more of the commercialized areas or needed a work workcation, as they called it, have that opportunity now through that wine club. And their founders also have a media company, so they're doing workshops on how to create video and content. So I think it's been very interesting to see how those types of different businesses or industries that may seem separate are really coming together in the community to support the growth.
I love that, and I love the diversity of options that you mentioned. What's something about Loudoun County that... Is it still a county? It is still a county, right? Loudoun County?
Yep.
Yeah. What is something about Loudoun that people don't know that should know?
Something about Loudoun. I'm going to speak specifically to my industry, focusing on entrepreneurs and small business. When I first started my position with the county economic development, I was absolutely amazed to find out we had incubators and co-working spaces and these amazing tech founders that were in my backyard. At one point, I even lived next to one. I had no idea. So it was really my mission when I came on board with the county's economic development to make sure that we were shouting that from the rooftops. And since that time, in the last 2 years, we went from 2 incubators to now 8 different innovation places. So a mix of maker spaces, co-working, incubators. So there are, yes, we're in the suburbs, we're not directly within a metro, but those opportunities are right here in our backyard. And I think that's so important for current entrepreneurs or those considering launching a business to know that they can probably drive 5 minutes down the road and get the help they need.
Why should someone use an innovation space then?
I think there's a lot of great conversations that have when, yes, you can go to events, yes, you can go to workshops, and those are so important for tangible skills for your business or strategy. But it's a lot of times those connections that you make unexpectedly that can lead to a great referral that you can share a challenge with. So engaging with those types of spaces, whether it's a maker space or a co-working space, is just a great way to step outside of your box and get a different perspective and share your ideas, but also get new ideas as well to help your business.
Love it. Vanessa Wagner, if people are interested in learning more about Loudoun County and the businesses, they go to loudonsmallbiz.org. Is there anywhere else that they should go?
biz.loudoun.gov.
Awesome. biz.loudoun.gov. We'll have all that in the show notes. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about just the way that you think in the books and the quotes that you might live by. What's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book, I am currently rereading Start With Why. Mm-hmm. Because why is the most important question. I think really understanding your purpose or the reason you're doing something goes to any strategy, whether you're starting a business or you're in the service industry, helping your community, really understanding why.
I know you know Dara Macon from SourceLink in Kansas City. She said the same thing. She's on the episode before you. So are you guys reading that together? Are you guys doing like a book club or something?
I guess we're in good company with that. I would also, if I were looking at quotes, I would have to say my favorite quote, and I don't know who says this, I should probably look it up, but it's that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So even if you're just thinking about starting a business, really understanding the resources available or taking time to go to a 1 million cups program or scrolling our hashtag Loud Impossible to see what other businesses are doing is a great way to start preparing yourself for when that eureka moment or idea hits you and you're ready to start and launch.
What's the quote again? Luck is what?
Pardon?
The quote is what again?
Luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Preparation. I would not have believed that growing up, but I do now. I think that's it. Is there anything else that you want people to know about Loudoun?
Yeah, just that they can certainly learn about our businesses and, not have to take it from me. We do have a hashtag, Loud Impossible.
Yep.
And a lot of our businesses utilize that when they have a successful moment or want to share something about the community. So that's another great way to engage in Loudoun.
I love that you said you wanted Loudoun to be a place where people will go to the top of a roof and shout out. I believe that most communities don't do that. They need to tell their stories, so I'm glad that you guys are doing that. And it looks like when you moved in, I moved out, but maybe I'll come back at some point to Loudoun County. Still have family up there. Vanessa Wagner, I appreciate your time today, and thanks for being with us on the show.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of it.
You too.